Get my 6 from the actual field where we may or may not find the hide and seek world champion. Isn't this great, guys? We're back out in the potential Bigfoot Sasquatch forest. I know, I enjoy the videos from home too, and my place is so beautiful. Why would I ever go out in the woods? Potentially to find him, her, it, or they. Yeah, we may or may not have them around our place anyway, but we're very close to the lair. Haven't been out here in a while, and I want to give a big shout out and say thank you to the channel's new administrator, Erie, for making this all possible. I don't have to spend so much time, literally hours a day, cleaning shit stains off the walls of the bathroom, as it were, from vertically challenged individuals who live under bridges, who want to come on here and argue with complete strangers they'll never meet, which, of course, lowers the quality of the experience for all of our visitors and our viewers, because Erie's here doing that now. So I have time to get out here in the field, look for him, her, it, or they, actually let you look for him, her, it, or they, as I try not to break my butt, falling on my butt, sharing the stories you guys and girls have been sending in. So with that in mind, I'm going to get right to it. So watch behind me. I'll try to give you multiple camera angles as we go along. Again, we got some stories here. Some have been submitted by folks who don't mind if we use their names, so we will. Others have been submitted anonymously. If you have a story about anything pertaining to all things weird, be it cryptozoology, be it paranormal, supernatural, spiritual world, whatever, send it in. We'll share. Already, I'm seeing them. Let me flip the camera and zoom. Guys, did you see that? They went right behind this tree. Did I say, hey, Erie, thank you for freeing up my time to get me back out here in the field? Already, we've been out here less than a couple of minutes to the point to where I've started recording, and we picked up him, her, it, or they on camera. Potentially. Kind of creeped out to do this now. I'm going to do things a little bit differently. I usually come out here and tell my stories, and I look around, check the camera. But I'm not going to be able to look around and check the camera today, so you guys are really going to have to do that for me, because today I'm telling your stories. So let's get to it. Hi, Kevin. First off, forgive my grammar. If you guys see anything, timestamp it, okay? I quit school after 8th grade because my father died that year. Long story short, I had more education, but my English never got much better. This story, by the way, somebody who didn't mind us mentioning their name, so let's give credit right off the bat where credit's due. Benny Chadwick comes to us from Benny Chadwick, who's also a veteran, so thank you for your service. I have seen the supernatural things you talk about. This one experience happened to my aunt and uncle and myself, and my mom and dad. An old house that had always been reported as haunted. My uncle rented the house, and we helped him move in. Thought I heard voices. The first day my aunt passed out, she was not doing anything overly stressful. The first thing you see walking in the front door was the fireplace in the hallway and the creepy piano by the door. I was playing with the piano later that day, and I hit the keys deeper, making the typical horror story sound. My aunt ran outside. She was already nervous and scared. My uncle had a big German Shepherd, military training, and to what extent I never knew. This is the uncle, been in the military, but he has no idea to what extent. He would stop and look up the stairs. Nothing there, but he sensed something, this being the German Shepherd. A few days go by with more stories from them. He would go to the kitchen, and my aunt following closely behind him. They would see a pot of coffee on the stove cooking. I saw it myself, and my mom poured herself a cup. She fixed it and was drinking it. My aunt and my mom had a short conversation while they were having their coffee. We left walking, and all three of us went to our house. So their house, left the aunt and uncle's house. Only about a city block away, my aunt left the dog locked in the kitchen. A bowl of pecans, pronounced around our parts pecan. I went back with my dad and uncle after my uncle got off work. My uncle said it was just Aunt Lee. Apparently my grandfather had a sister-in-law by that name. Well, more stories about the coffee pot came about. None I witnessed myself. My uncle was always hunting treasure. You know, the type of something for nothing. He's talking about the person. He's trying to go out and make the quick money, you know, play the scratch-off tickets or get a job long enough to fake an injury, sue the employer. I'm from Appalachia, I know the kind quite well. He was a big-hearted guy. He's just a little slack in motivation, unless it was his big break. Yeah, I know the kind. Well, their last day was the creepiest of all. Strange sounds were heard by each of us, just not all of us at one time. As usual, a pot of coffee was brewing, yet none of us was brewing it. My dad drank a cup. He said he was going to help move furniture. He didn't care about making the daggone coffee. So guys, what's going on in this story is this mysterious coffee pot just continuously ends up on the stove, but nobody's putting it there. Nobody's brewing any coffee. So I gotta change pages here. It's a little challenging hiking up this steep trail while trying to hold papers and read them. Maybe I should just sit for a spell, just for a second. I need to hydrate anyway. Keep getting my 6. We saw those two moving figures back there. They seem to be behind me. Let's see if they catch up. Do some 360 stuff while we're staying here. Give you guys different angles. Interesting. Is that truly a pileated woodpecker? Or is that him, her, it, or they down there letting each other know, hey, he stopped, let's stop here as well. Let's give it a few minutes and see. So my father was going to have a cup of coffee. He offered to make everyone a cup. None of us wanted any. We left the kitchen with the pot on the stove. When we went back to the kitchen, after being out long enough for the coffee to get cold, the coffee pot was washed and put back in the cabinet. But nobody had been in the kitchen. Nobody had been in the house. As we wrapped up the last few chores, we heard a noise, all of us. My uncle and my father went upstairs to investigate. They discovered a hole in the wall and a crawl space down into the main bedroom, inside the walk-in closet. Another hole led to underneath the house. Check back this way for a while. So my uncle became convinced hobos were the source of the mischief. So they thought homeless people were living in the house. We all went outside. My uncle got the dog, named Sarge, by the way. He immediately acted like he was on the trail of something. He turned and growled up the stairs. We were all standing looking up the stairs. Going up there was a landing and a left turn giving up to the top floor. As the dog made it to the landing, his side caved inward and he was launched against the wall. He spun around and ran out of the house and got in the car. So this is a German Shepherd. Went up the stairs and was kicked by a phantom, it sounds like, into the wall and ran out of the house as quickly as it could. My mom was standing by the door. Everyone came outside. My aunt got out of the car and the dog wouldn't get out of the car once it got in the car. My uncle locked the door and pulled it shut. My father said, well, that is over. The door now shook as if someone inside was making sure it was locked. This is the door to the house, this haunted house. Since the dining room and living room were really big rooms, no one could have possibly gotten to the door that fast after closing the door. I would later learn my great Aunt Lee was the architect that designed the house. She walked with a limp, dragging her foot. It's getting creepy in these woods. I'm going to give you another view from a different angle. Got to pull 360-degree security here, folks. It's that pileated woodpecker again. Okay, the reason she walked with a limp and dragged her foot is because at some point she had been bitten by a rabid dog and she hated dogs. Is this the phantom that kicked the German Shepherd? At 14 years old, I visited the house by myself. I went to the side door entrance through the dining room. I stopped, said a prayer. Then I introduced myself to her, my aunt, by calling her by name. I said, "Please don't do anything. I want to know, is there something here you want me to have? If so, knock twice." I waited, and sure enough, 2 knocks. I asked, "Is it hidden under the hearth on top of the fireplace? If so, knock twice for yes." I waited. 2 more knocks came. I said, "Do you want me to come in and get it?" Knock twice for yes. Quickly, 2 more knocks came from the piano. I eased in and lifted up the hearthboard. Sure enough, I ran my hand in the hollow area. Reaching back and up, I felt a piece of paper. I pulled on it and dropped into my hand, and it dropped into my hands. A set of old dusty blueprints, and they were hand-drawn blueprints. I walked outside and looked back inside. I said, "Do you want me to give these to anyone?" One very loud knock, which I'm led to assume would be no. "Do you want me to put them back?" One very loud knock. I was confused and asked, "Do you want me to destroy them?" A few seconds of silence, and then a loud sigh and a very loud knock. This was beginning to be a puzzle. I said, "Lord, give me a sign." A rabbit jumped up and ran away from me. I asked, "Do you want me to hide them?" 2 very loud knocks, which means yes. I continued to babble for a moment, and a few knocks happened at the word "you." I asked her, "Me?" 2 very loud knocks, so this is a yes. I took and opened the blueprints. There were several prints, each more detailed. Finally, I realized that the prints were not of this house. Just the first page was a drawing of her house. I hid them, and it wasn't until I was in the U.S. Navy, Seabees, Builder A School in Gulfport, Mississippi, 12 years later, when I was taking a blueprint reading class, that I began noticing certain symbols that were familiar. When I got home, the first thing I did was go find those blueprints. I had hidden them in a metal pipe up in the crawl space in my mom's house, laying beside a ceiling joist. I got the pipe down. I had capped both ends with tomato soup cans. Looking at the prints, now I could understand them. I knew what I was looking at. Blueprints to a house, which was constructed to be an impenetrable force. Now, I'm going to walk a little bit before I get on to the next story, because this leaves us asking several questions. So the house was clearly haunted by the great aunt, who liked to make coffee, as there were continuously hot pots of coffee brewing on the stove that nobody in the family was making. Couldn't have been a prank or a trick, because they'd all leave the house together to go outside, and when they'd come home, especially that one time, the coffee pot had been cleaned and put away. Full-grown German Shepherd, and I think it's the German Shepherd that had military training, not so much the uncle, perhaps both, but a German Shepherd who was not scared of anything, who actually charged up the stairs but was kicked by an unseen force into the wall, scaring it enough to where it ran out of the house and refused to go back in, went into a locked car. And then plans were found for an impenetrable fortress. So what I'm thinking, based upon my experience and my interest in this field, is that the aunt might not have been the only one in the house. The ghost of the aunt. And correct me if I'm wrong, and Benny, give me your 2 cents in the comment section if you'd like. All 5 tasking. I detected movement up here on this hill, and it just got eerily quiet. So I want you to focus up here while I'm walking and talking. Have the ant in life been haunted by this evil, ill-willed spirit in her house? Is this the spirit that kicked the dog? I mean, the writer, the submitter of the story, clearly said that she walked and dragged her foot because she had been bitten by a rabid dog. Could the rabid dog that bit her belong to the evil entity that also haunted the house? I'm just kind of thinking out loud here and asking multiple possibility questions. But I kind of get the feeling from that story. I mean, why would a ghost or this woman in life be so concerned with building an impenetrable fort? I don't know. So, but I believe every word of the submitter's story. And we're going to move on to another one. Sorry that my water bottle's making so much crackling noise. It makes it harder to hear footsteps if they come around. Keep getting my 6, and I'll keep reading. We've already captured movement in here on video. You've seen it. Let's see if we can capture more. Again, thank you, Erie, for allowing me to get out here and do this. All right. Making sure we're not being followed. This is a different story. This submitter wants to stay anonymous. Some years ago, I bought a parakeet for company, plus my oldest loved birds. This bird suffered from a deplorable excess of personality. He would do acrobatic tricks, talk, sing, dance, mimic a phone, or even the TV. He could sound like anything you wanted, even a cat. Sounds like I just heard a tree knock. He also screeched and squawked sometimes. Over time, I learned his signals. If he wanted food, he'd cheep sweetly. If he wanted fresher water, he'd rattle his water dish up and down. If he wanted outside, he'd dingle his bell angrily and squawk. He loved to be outside during the summer so he could talk to the other birds. Man, he'd just chirp and sing sweetly. He was loud often. Gotta flip the page. But a lot of company. He was a loud company. Years passed, and he got older and died. It was sad, and we all cried when we buried him. The house seemed so quiet after he died. It'd been a long time in bird years, and he still keeps us company from time to time, though. I can't tell you how many times we've been watching TV only to hear him squawk or angrily dingle his bell because he wants out. I definitely heard a stick break up here. My oldest days, oh well, I guess the bird wants out again. Then we stiffen up, or my oldest says, oh well, I guess the bird wants out again. Then we stiffen up because we realize he's been dead for years. So they're actually hearing the ghost of a parakeet. And sometimes, because they had the pet for so long, they forget it's dead. And so they'll hear the ghost of the parakeet making the squawking sounds that it wants out of the cage. And they'll actually say, well, I guess it wants out of the cage again. And then they realize, wait a minute, it's been dead for years. So guys, this spirit world, this spirit realm, it's not just, doesn't just pertain to us. I mean, people are seeing and having apparition type experiences with their pets as well. So, those are the only stories I brought. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drink this water so I can crinkle up this bottle and so it stops making this noise. I'm going to walk a little further into the potential Bigfoot Sasquatch lair here, and we're just going to take some time to look around and see if we can find him, her, it, or they off of this trail. I'm not going to get off this trail while I'm reading stories, but now that I'm done, it's time to get off the trail and head deeper into the lair. Okay, so guys, here's what I've done. I went up to the top of the hill and I cut down the hill. I'm off the trail. We saw that movement behind us in the very beginning of the video, so I'm cutting down, trying to slip through the woods quietly to see if I can come up behind whatever may or may not be following me. So make my way back down off the mountain. So again, those are some pretty nice stories. If you've got one, submit it. Let us know if you want your name used or not. And the email address to the channel is on the About page. Erie will get them, but she gets all stories to me, okay? Bless her heart again. She's probably thinking I'm wanting something here by giving her all these shout outs. I just love the fact that she's freed my time up by taking the administrative work away from me that I didn't need to be doing, so I can get back out here in the field and look for him, her, it, or they. Man, I love the stories. I love the conversation that takes place on the channel, but this was always about just getting out here in the field and doing the research, you know? At least for me, giving you guys the footage so you could have the discussions. And I want to give a special shout out and props again to my buddy Travis Daigle over at Fighting Past 40, who kind of reinvigorated me and relit the flame of my motivation to focus more on doing the things in life that I want to do and get away from the things I don't want to do, like policing comment sections on social media channels because people want to come and fight and insult strangers and all that stuff. So, and then with the woodworking stuff I'm doing now and actually being able to write more and edit more, you know, with the October Nights Part 2, so much closer to getting that finished now that I've got more free time to do it. And again, haven't decided yet, but once that project is over, might compile a lot of these stories that are coming in, put those together in book form so they can be preserved and read, you know, at home in your hands, actually holding a book. Of course, Kindle version for the younger folks out there that like that style. But the point is, I'll have the time to do that should I decide to do it. And I'm motivated to take on new challenges like that because of Travis Daigle at Fighting Past 40, freed up time-wise because of Erie. She's been kind of mentioning, I'm making sure you know what, this is weird. I was looking down to make sure I wasn't stepping on a yellow jacket's nest, but I may have just found potentially a grave of Bigfoot Sasquatch. Let me reverse the phone and show you what I'm looking at right here. Look at this mound. This is what I thought was a yellow jacket's nest. Might be something else. I don't see any yellow jackets, but something is burrowed into this oddly shaped mound. And guys, if you're not up on your history, what I'll tell you is that there are unmarked graves all over the forests of America, especially here in the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, because this is where America started, the first colony, you know, Jamestown. And we are potentially in the Bigfoot Sasquatch lair, and they are known to hide their graves. We're just on the side of a hill. Now listen, a lot of the naysayers would say, oh, that's just from where the root ball of a fallen tree flipped the soil up. Well, where's the fallen tree? There's no old log, there's no old root ball. There's just this mound that is about 8 feet in length, 3.5 or 4 feet in width. The soil is clearly mounded up. We may have found a potential Bigfoot Sasquatch. Oh my gosh, there's another one. Oh my gosh. Let's get closer. Guys, this was not planned. This was not planned at all, but it looks like we may have found another burial site, another burial ground for Bigfoot Sasquatch. Okay, now here we do have, well, this tree's not big enough. See this tree? This tree is not big enough for its root ball to form a mound of this size. It's as if someone or something may have buried something underneath here, moved it back, and this is supposed to be to throw us off. Interesting. Look at this. Look at this, guys. There is no majorly sized tree here. And once again, we're looking at a mound about 8 feet in length, 3 feet across. Wow. And then there again is the other one. There's a creepy looking tree. It's one of those. Potential portals down there on the end. Wow. So all I did was come out here into the forest, into the potential Bigfoot Sasquatch territory, to read some more viewer submitted stories, and we may have found a burial site. But this is how it works. And again, this is why, in no Erie, I'm not looking for favors any more than you're already providing, but this is why I'm so happy to have somebody who has taken the administrative crap away from me on this channel to let me get back out here in the field and make these kind of finds. It's an interesting tree break. Let's go check it out. What's more interesting yet is I'm on what's sort of like a natural cross trail on this hill, not man-made. We have an old tree break here. Plenty of sign, definitely plenty of sign in here. All right, so anyway, guys, there's another tree break up there. Again, and I'm just right there where we found these mounds. Boy, this is a hot spot. This is a hot spot. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to come out here tomorrow, knock on wood, Lord willing, the creeks don't rise. I'm going to bring more stories, and I'm going to come out here and set up somewhere in this location and sit in place and see if we can't, through the telling of some of these really creepy stories, draw him, her, it, or they in closer to listen. So thanks for your stories. You got one, submit it to the channel. If you're seeing this video, that means I made it home safely, so there will be a next time. And that's when I'll see you next time.